a series of 4 cartridges featuring reincarnations of Mario's most timeless early adventures begins with this launch title, Super Mario Advance. The world's most famous video game mascot would get many spin-offs and side quests on the GBA, including karting, partying, and whatever he was supposed to be doing in Mario's Pinball Land. It wasn't pinball, let me tell you for damn sure. Plus, he'd get to go on a wonderful RPG-style adventure with his brother in Superstar Saga. However, in terms of straight-up original side-scrolling platformers, the Game Boy family missed out for the second generation running. The closest either the Color or the Advance got both featured Wario in one of his wealth-building journeys. That's not to say there weren't enough side-scrollers featuring Mario. Like I say, Super Mario Advance was the first of 4 carts, each featuring 1 or 2 remakes or ports of earlier games in the franchise. We'll see the legendary SNES games Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island find their way onto the handheld, and even the NES classic Super Mario Bros. 3 later on. We'd start with a 2-piece here, not with the original NES game Super Mario Bros., which already had an earlier remake on the Game Boy Color with the excellent Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, but with the sequel, meaning when all was said and done, basically all of the mainline 8 and 16-bit Mario games had a portable version. Pretty nifty. On this cartridge as well, you'll also find the 1983 classic, if I can somewhat liberally use that word, Mario Brothers. You'll perhaps play that one as a bit of a curio, but let's be real, not for that long. It's a simple, single-screen platformer that wraps around. Exit stage left and you'll appear on the right, where, as Mario and Luigi in 2-player mode, you need to try to dispose of the critters that emerge from the drain pipes at the top. These might be turtles, crabs, flies, and so on. You need to bash them from underneath to flip them. Turtles take 1 hit, whereas crabs take 2, then get up onto their level and run into them to kick them off the screen. We've all seen this before at some point, but this is a decent platform to play it on, and it translates pretty well to the Game Boy Advance for what it's worth. In Super Mario Bros. 2, before the start of each level you get a choice of characters: Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Toad, and they all have different jump heights, speed, and strength. Strength is how much health they start with. Obviously, attack power isn't really a thing in Mario. The eponymous plumber is your all-rounder, his loser brother can jump higher, Peach can sort of glide for a bit to jump farther, and Toad is fast, but has a really irritating voice in this game. Now look, indulge me a sec while I go off on a bit of a tangent. I know it's commonplace for Mario games and has been for a good while, but I'm going to bring this up right now because I don't think I've ever been irked by it like this before. One addition the updated NES game certainly did not need is all this voiceover stuff. I know it's a launch title and you're wanting to show off what the new console can do, but my god, these characters do not shut up. The over-the-top voice acting is so egregious here, it actually makes me want to play in silent, what is usually such a great series to listen to. It's hard to even contemplate having to play a Mario game without those gorgeous songs in the background. Well, you might have to. Every time you pick something up, it's like, lucky, thank you, what a tasty dish. Perhaps I'm in the minority here, but damn me, does it wind me up. Pulling those turnips out of the ground gives you a constant, yeah, yeah, over and over again. Even the bosses talk to you. The level boss fights are usually variants of Birdo, who quips something like, this is as far as you go. And you'll get other such dull witticisms like, I'm too hot to touch. Yeesh, just brutal. It's such a shame because, like I say, the soundtrack is brilliant otherwise. The character voices are present in every Mario game now, but I can't think of a single other one where the overabundance of voices all the bloody time was this obnoxious. Anyway, look, just my preference. I'm sure most of you don't care all that much and wondering why the heck I'm prattling on about it. The premise of this version of Mario was never really my favourite. I'm much more of a fan of the jumping on stuff focused titles. Here, there's such an emphasis on uprooting vegetables and hurling them at enemies, and it never really felt very Mario-ish to me. Perhaps that's because it wasn't originally a Mario game, but one called Doki Doki Panic when it first came out in Japan on the Famicom. But it is what it is. Mario games usually have 1 or 2 gimmicks about them that change them up and keep the series somewhat refreshed each time. Alongside the veggie hurling is a wealth of power blocks, which can knock out anything on screen at any time. Throughout levels you'll see a bunch of red coins. These are called ace coins, and there are 5 on each of the 20 levels. If you manage to get 5, you get a 1-up, and you'll need all of them if you want to achieve a 100% rating in the game. Other coins you might see can be used to play the slot machine after each boss fight for another chance at some extra lives. There are bombs which can be used to uncover hidden passages, giant vases you can enter which harbour bonuses like 1-ups. The controls feel incredibly slippery here, even for Mario, which can take a little getting used to, and I must confess, I don't think I ever did get used to it. It's most prevalent when running, which can be done by holding B, but is better performed using the R shoulder button, leaving B for picking stuff up, which you'll be doing a ton. The super slippery controls make it incredibly difficult for precise platforming, and one of the most common ways you'll die in this game is by falling into a pit. The worst place for the wonky controls, though, is when climbing ropes or vines. You're not locked onto a vine laterally, as you would imagine, and as you are normally in video games, but instead any minute touch left or right will cause your character to completely let go. This decision was made presumably because you often need to jump between vines, while also avoiding climbing enemies. But it's far too easy with the Game Boy Advance's D-pad to fall off. You should be hanging on a vine until you specifically jump off it with A. Compare it to the wonderful Belmont's Revenge with their rope climbing gimmick, and basically that's how it should be done. You should be hanging on a vine until you specifically jump off it with A, not with the slightest accidental directional press. Yeah, I'm kinda torn with this one. On the one hand, it's nice that a new generation gets to experience these games that were already retro by 2001, and hey, the game looks awesome now. Some amazing subtle visual modifications, even over how it looked in Super Mario All-Stars, like enhanced animations and rotation effects, and they all add up. The game is truly huge as well, with 20 levels, all of which have multiple sections to them. Gameplay-wise, it was just never my favorite though. Too much irritating platforming, the controls don't feel right for Mario, and there's a rather large part of me that, especially after the Game Boy Color failed to deliver on one, I just wanted an original side-scrolling Mario platformer. Much like the Game Boy Color, we never got one on the Advance, and the 4 re-releases instead do not make up for that omission, in my opinion. A rare pass on a Mario game for me, this.